Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jayson.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by Prize Picks and the Game Time app. Welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. I'm your host, Sherrod Blakely, joined by the one, the only Outback Jack, a.k.a. Josue Pavon. Man, this is what the summertime edition of the podcast look like. You just never know where cats are going to be showing up from.
Yeah, it's so true. Yo, Outback Jack, though, that's a great reference.
I stay in the crib where it's nice and cool, temperate. Josue, he's getting some of that fresh outdoor air. Is that a deal? That's not.
While we still have it, Sherrod, summer's over. It's pretty much, we got a couple of weeks, but that's about it. So I'm trying to enjoy it.
You trying to get it in. I see there. I see you.
It's been one of those summers. Yeah. Spending time, a lot of time at my parents' place and just, try to soak in the summer as much as I can, whatever's left of it.
I ain't mad at you. I kind of like the comfortable confines with Sherrod on my back here, Sherrod on the camera, and all that good stuff, because that's my teammate. And speaking of teammates, we're about to see the superpower, a.k.a. Boston Celtics, get it going again here. The schedules are out, and some interesting matchups. I kind of like what the NBA is doing. They're doing what they typically do. They try to get the juiciest matchups sooner rather than later. Right off the bat, the one team in the Eastern Conference that I think we've been talking the most about in the offseason as being the biggest threat to the Boston Celtics is the New York Knicks. And lo and behold, who do they open up with? The New York Knicks. So I'm looking forward to that first game for obvious reasons. I think most Celtics fans are. But beyond that, Josue, what are some matchups that you're looking forward to seeing early on in the season?
The Knicks are definitely one of them. I'm surprised the Celtics aren't heading to MSG earlier. I feel like we usually see that, before Christmas or so, which is even better if you ask me, because you want to get that matchup around just before the All-Star break where guys have, they're not just a week or two into the season. You know what I mean? They're ready to show you what they got. And I think New York is certainly on the top of the list of being one of those teams that really wants to send a message to the Boston Celtics throughout the entire regular season. However, that message just resonates. You know what I mean? It resonates on another level when it's like right before the All-Star break. So I think that's the game I'm looking forward to most. I just think I think the New York Knicks, they believe it, but seeing it is a whole nother thing. So if they're able to put that put together a solid win against the Celtics, I mean, not only would it send a message, but it'll certainly set the stage for what I'm anticipating to see a best of 7 series between these two teams. Man, we didn't get it last year. The basketball gods didn't give it to us. Guys are banged up and over. Overall, though, Sherrod, were they really ready, though? I mean, I still take the Celtics in that. Whereas you have another season, another, training camp, another year to, go over what went wrong last year. A much stronger New York Knicks team. I mean, I prefer that now, compared to what we would have seen in a hypothetical Eastern Conference Final Series last year. So I'm most excited about that matchup for sure for the Celtics.
Well, first of all, let me give a shout out to the NBA for putting some respect in that crown by having the Celtics open up at home versus opening up on the road against New York. Because I'm telling you right now, if that game would have been in New York City, the Celtics, I would whatever they're favored by, I'm going over. I will take the over no matter what that number is, because if you tell the Celtics, hey, you won an NBA title, and you're going to begin the season on the road against probably the one biggest rival you'll have. Oh, the team that had a little bit of a chip on the shoulder that just got bigger and bigger and bigger, it's going to get even bigger. So at least the Knicks, I think, have a fighting chance with the game being in Boston. And it being, ring ceremony night, and that's always an emotional night for players. No matter what they say that, you get the ring and then you just play ball. It's not quite that easy to just separate yourself. Having talked with guys who've won NBA titles, and they've talked about what that night is like. It's emotional because, it's the tangible point in which all that you accomplished a year ago, that you've had this entire summer to kind of get out your system. You got one more night to enjoy it. You got one more moment to just embrace the fact that you are the baddest of the baddest, and everyone in the world is recognizing how good you were in that particular season when it mattered most. I'm glad that they're not beginning the season on the road, because that would have been just absolute, I would have felt bad for the Knicks, because the Knicks would have got thrashed. At least now they got a fighting chance. But the game I am the game that I want, Josue.
Which one?
Philly? Nope. The game that I will be absolutely glued to, whether I'm in the building or not, is when they play Golden State. That game is going to be early. That game is going to be early in the summer, and that game is not so much about just matchups and X's and O's. Full disclosure, that's the petty side of Sherrod coming out. That's the petty side of Sherrod getting his fix on in that game. Because for any of us who have even the slightest bit of pettiness in us and want to see folks exact revenge for folks who've done them wrong, that's the game you want to see. That's the only game that I would ever seriously think that Tatum and Jaylen Brown could each have 30 in the first half. I absolutely could see that happening. I
didn't even think about it like that. That's a good point, Sherrod. You know what I mean? It's almost like they're gonna walk into that with that mindset, with that like Chris Brown, look at me now type of anthem bumping. You know what I mean? Like, yo, not only are we paid, not only are we the champions, but it's a new era. It's a new day, right? If you're Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown going up against a team that beat you in the finals 2 years ago. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, for sure.
And just how things went down with the Olympics. I mean, with Tatum not playing, Jaylen not making the team, it becomes an absolute petty fest. It's Petty Palooza is what I'm gonna call that game. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for.
Oh, you know the crowd's gonna get Steve Kerr bad too, man. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah,
I don't know if there will ever be a coach that will get booed as much as Steve Kerr will when he's introduced as the head coach. In fact, if Eddie do it the way I think he will, he might let that introduction linger a little bit. Like, and head coach of the Team USA gold medal winning.
Yeah, he better throw that in there. Yeah,
just kind of, let it roll out a little bit so that folks can just kind of get kind of foamed up a little bit. And if Eddie, Tatum, and if Tatum,
I was gonna say Eddie Palladino. Yeah, he's gonna do something. He's gonna do something.
Eddie P's gonna make it happen. Eddie P's gonna spice that, make it spicy. And again, for those who love a little Petty Palooza type of games, that is what I am so here for. And I know Jaylen and Jayson, they're going to say all the right things leading up to that game. It's just another game. We got bigger games to win. We're trying to win another title. We don't got time to be petty, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you do. You always got time to be petty, especially early in the season. I might feel different if it were like in March where you're trying to establish playoff position and you got, every game really matters because you want to have that top seed, all that other stuff. I get it. Then maybe you hold back on the petty just a little bit. But in November, among your first 10, 15 games of the season, Petty Palooza, here we come, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
Petty Palooza, yeah, for sure, man. You're gonna do your victory lap, and you're gonna have receipts. You're gonna remember what just happened, what transpired, a couple of months ago. You're only a couple of months removed, pretty much, from what happened out in Paris. I just hope, man, overall, after everything that happened with Tatum and everything, I just hope this doesn't, have him second guessing to go and rejoin Team USA with or without Steve Kerr, which obviously seems like it's not going to be with Steve Kerr. But either way, like, do not let this, this sour taste, don't fall for what's being said out there. Look, everyone criticizing Kerr, it's valid. I get it. But at the same time, I don't want Tatum to buy into that talk and be like, you know what? I don't need them. They don't need me. Like, at the end of the day, Team USA doesn't necessarily need someone like Tatum, but what a great opportunity for him, especially because he's been there a couple of times. I loved in the beginning to see someone like Kevin Durant kind of pass the torch to a younger Tatum. I feel like that's still in line despite what happened this year. And I would love to see him bounce back, especially that it's in the US. You know what I mean? It's in LA. Yeah. Like, that'd be super cool, man. So hopefully we see him in 2028.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we do that, I want to talk about just, how things did go down with Tatum. Because, I mean, you kind of alluded to, this was not exactly what he was banking on. I mean, it's kind of like,
right.
You move into that, you go to the restaurant and you say your table's ready. And then you realize, wait a minute, this ain't my table. Yeah, it is. It's the kiddie table. Here you go, Jayson. Durant and Booker, they're going to be at the big boy table, but we're going to put you at the kiddie table, you and Halliburton. Here you go. Thanks for coming out. But the thing about
Tyrese is eating. eating whatever they got. He's happy. He don't mind.
He's happy. He's good. He's chilling. And people's just like, why can't Tatum be more like Tyrese? I'm just like, because he ain't Tyrese.
Because he ain't Tyrese.
That's why. That's why.
Right.
I mean, it's like when you 13, 14 years old and you get to hang out with the teenagers and you 17, 18 years old, and it ain't really hanging out with the teenagers. You're hanging out with your peers, but you're being treated like you're 3-4 years younger than that. No, the thing about Tatum that I want us to get into a little bit is that when you look at some of the things that have come out after the Olympics, you look at some of the comments that Jeff Teague has made about how, thanks Team USA, you just basically put the Celtics in position to be a dynasty because their two best players are going to have an absolute, chip upon the biggest chips you could possibly have. And then you hear Kevin Garnett, who recently spoke about this, and he talked about how, Tatum getting all this rest is actually going to be a good thing, considering the kind of year he's had. And I'm just curious, what's your take on Tatum not playing? I mean, was that a good or bad thing for him to not play as much?
Honestly, I think it's a good thing, man. I mean, if we're looking at like I alluded to earlier, in the sense of his future with Team USA, maybe it's a bad thing. But again, hopefully, look, 4 years is a while, and hopefully that's not going to be the case, or at least in 2 years, when they do the FIBA tournament. Hopefully he's involved, but. In terms of his career, in terms of getting back to the NBA and defending the NBA championship, this is a great thing, an ounce of humble pie, so to speak. I don't think Jayson Tatum's ever been benched in his life, I remember a few DMPs my freshman year, but Tatum ain't got no DMPs, man. Tatum's been with his dad as a coach or not. I'm sure it's never happened to him before. So I think it's a great teachable moment for him as an individual. And to take that, like you said, that had that chip on your shoulder going into this season, which I feel like was already there, but it certainly is bigger now that, it's being talked about, and it's been such a topic amongst, NBA shows, not just the first DMP, but after that. So I think that really does make an impact for Tatum, but I think it does it in a good way for sure, man. I can't wait to see him respond. And you can say the same thing about Jaylen and just feeling he was snubbed for political reasons, right? The Nike thing, all these tweets he put out there, on X. I just think a lot of that, they respond to those type of moments. And so I'm not expecting anything different this year. But yeah, in terms of if that's going to be a good thing, I think it is for sure. I don't think he's going to go into the season pouty or anything, man. He's going to be ready to go. And I can't wait for it because you already know, Sherrod, when you're the champions, man, people want to knock your head off a little more. You know what I mean? Last year, they sort of did have a target on their back, especially midway through the season and all the way to the end. But this is different. This is different for sure. And it all starts in that first game, how they respond, because it is an emotional night, Sherrod. When you were talking about that earlier, I didn't want to cut you off because it just hit me. And I was like, man, I almost forgot about what happened in 2008. And Sherrod, I'm sure you remember, seeing Paul Pierce crying his eyes out, that's not something I ever had on my bingo card. We didn't see that side of Paul. That's the first time I've ever seen him. I mean, when he won, and some of his scariest moments when he was stabbed and nearly lost his life, you just always saw a serious, stern, focused Paul. And to see him just break like that, I think is one of the best examples of guys just not, I don't want to say not ready, but everyone responds different to that moment when it's that surreal. You got the Celtics legends that are going to be in the building. When you get the actual ring, you actually pull that banner up and you're like, wow, we did that, and even though you're a few months removed, I think it hits even more because of that. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone cracks a tear or anything. I don't know. I don't think this is the team. I don't mean that in a bad way, but again, I said the same thing about the 08 ceremony when Pierce and Garnett were lifting that banner, and Pierce couldn't keep it together, man. He was bawling his eyes out, and it hit even harder. It gave me goosebumps seeing him like that.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. That's right. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. While daily fantasy lineups are cool, you can also get in on season-long projections as well. Should you go more or less on Patrick Mahomes throwing for 4,300 yards? And what about Aaron Rodgers and 3,750 yards passing? How about Tyreek Hill having more or less than 1,376 yards receiving? Or Saquon Barkley rushing for more than or less than 1,050 yards? Get in on the action by downloading the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, run your game. I think for guys like Paul at that point in his career, it hit a little bit hard because he knew Father Time was just basically right down a block. Whereas Jayson, Tatum, and Jalen, which to me, this is the scary part about them. They haven't even really hit their peak yet. Most guys in the NBA,
dudes ain't even 30 yet. Sherrod, crazy.
Yeah, usually they start sniffing that top of the mountain when they get to like 28, 29 years old, and these brothers aren't even there yet. So they still have a lot of runway left in them. But the thing about Tatum is that the concern that most people have when you win an NBA title, not only is it having that motivation to come back, but just being physically ready and able to just hit the ground running after what has been a long season. You think about training camp, preseason, regular season, playoffs, and then to tap it off with the Olympics. There's a stat out there that said that Tatum was one of 3 players to win an NBA title, make an Olympic team, and win a gold medal all in the same year. You join in like LeBron James and Michael Jordan. So whenever you are thrown into that super elite company, it's pretty special. But to your point, Josue, the emotional thing, I think for some of these guys, it will be emotional because like Paul Pierce and those guys, these guys were told that they couldn't do it. They were told that you're good, but I don't know if Jalen and Jayson, I don't know if that's going to work. And Porzingis, well, you've never really been in a winning situation. How you going to all of a sudden win now? And Drew Holiday, you got your chip in Milwaukee, but are you really going to be able to get another one? So, I mean, I think some of that may play out, and a couple of guys will be more emotional. And then the other wild card in all of this is family. I mean, Jayson Tatum's family is a little bit bigger now than it was when he won a chip. Sam House's family is going to be a little bit bigger.
No, that's true.
When they
Deuce is a big brother now.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, it hits a little differently. And somebody like Deuce, who we see all the time, I think he might get kind of emotional about that, just because this is something that he knows means a lot to his dad, and as a kid, you just don't know how he's going to respond to that. And you got the entire building, and you know how this fan base is. I mean, for something like this, they can be ridiculously emotional. I vividly remember some of the images from the Garden when that 2008 team got their ring, and it was like, it was one of those like come to Jesus moments where everyone coming to the altar boo-hooing up a storm. Lots of tears were shed, not just Paul. True. You pointed out Paul, as you rightly should, but Paul was not the only one boo-hooing up in the building that night.
That's true, Sherrod.
So,
but I just think like he had the what do they call it? The ugly cry face or whatever they call it, something like that. Like that's when you.
The one
like that's how you know.
Like, they're stuttering.
They're trying to stop it. They're trying to stop it, but the body's going the other way, and he's just trying to hold back, and the body's like, "Nah, man, I can't control this anymore." And like it was man, red-eyed and all that. But yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think out of everyone, I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I'm gonna say Al. Maybe Al gets a little, maybe it just hits him a little harder. You know what I mean? Seeing his family there and looking up, being like, "Wow, there's that banner." That he something that the Celtics franchise, front office has been talking about for 8 years. Right? When he signed in 2016, like that was the goal. That was the empty banner that was hanging there. And now he's a champion, and getting that hardware, making it official, putting that banner up there. Maybe he gets out. Maybe he gets it.
You know what? I think that's a good pick. But the guy I'm going to go with that's going to get emotional is Derek White. Because to me,
I can see that.
Me, Derek White may have the most charmed life of anyone in the NBA. When you think about this is a guy that forget about just coming from Colorado. This brother had as many basketball scholarship offers as I did, as someone who did not play basketball. We both had no Division I offers. And
man, we didn't get those.
And now you look at him years later, he's got an NBA title, he's got an Olympic gold medal. He's made way more money than any non-high profile, college prospect has ever made.
Yeah, and got those loans paid off, right, Sherrod?
Yeah,
good for him.
Yeah. Think about it. He might be the only NBA first round pick to ever pay off their student loans with their first check.
That's like the first thing he did too, man. Everyone watching that's on that path or was on that path, that's you.
People
you're like, okay, that's a real, that's a real one right there.
Exactly. Derek White, he basically got into the barbecue of every student who's ever had a loan, who's ever had to pay for their education. They're like, you know what? I am with Derek White. I am with him. I think he might be the one that
cheer
gets
for
emotional.
Derek White.
Yeah. And let's be honest, Derek White, if we're being really, really honest about this, and we actually did a poll or survey, Derek White might be the most popular guy on this team. I don't know if there's another guy that people genuinely like more than Derek White.
I think so, especially seeing him on Team USA for sure. And then recently he was in the, I think it was Celtics, the Celtics.com put together this incredible documentary about the season. And man, one of my favorite moments of it was him just chilling in his house with his kids.
Yeah, in the backyard.
Yes. Yo. Yo, was that the most Derek White clip you've ever seen? Like the way he's interacting with his kid, that stuff just cracks me up, man. Because that's just who he is, man. He asked him one of his kids, "Oh, who's your favorite player?" He points at him. He's just like, "Me." Oh man, thank you, appreciate that. That stuff just cracks me up, man. It's so Derek. It's so he's so humble, man. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
I would hate playing against him because I can't get mad at him no matter how much I want to get mad at him. You just got to create stuff that doesn't even exist in order to get mad at Derek White because you have literally nothing on the court that you can be angry about him about. He doesn't foul you hard. He doesn't play dirty. He doesn't do any of the things that might get under your skin. He defends the hell out of you, and he does it without being a dirty player. And it's just how you gonna get mad at this dude? And you can't rattle him because he has no problem being the fifth option. He's your fifth scorer who can go out there and get you 20. He go out there and get you 20. So yeah, he is, but I wanted to get back to Tatum really quick because obviously, this summer, as we pointed out, other than the fact that he's the highest paid player in the NBA, now that was a good thing. But as far as his play this summer, didn't quite go how he thought it would be. How do you think this is going to impact his approach to this season? Because, there's, I know I've talked about it. I think he's going to be on a revenge tour. Others have said, nah, he's just going to play Tatum's game because that's just Tatum going to be Tatum. What do you think this season is going to be like for Jayson Tatum?
I think we could be seeing, or we should see, his best season of his career. I just think the way everything was put together last year, which I think was easily his best season, just in a sense of what he meant to the defensive side of the floor as a playmaker, setting guys up. So I think we'll see more of the same, but on another level, like you said, I do think that he's going to have that chip on his shoulder for sure. And I would like to think that with everything that went down last year, that we're going to see him get to the free throw line a little more. And what I mean by that is I feel like this whole back and forth with the officials, hopefully that dies down significantly this year because, that tends to happen for champions, right, Sherrod? Guys who have been there before, they go back, they get the ring. You get that respect when you come back the following year. So I'm expecting that for Tatum. And I think with that, if you couple that with his mindset and going out there and just wanting to just destroy guys, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar to what we saw with the 08-09 team, maybe not, 23-3 or whatever the heck it was before a month or so before KG went down, but just a dominant stance, and whether that goes into a championship, hangover or not, I don't think that's going to linger for long with these guys, because like you said, they're not approaching 30, they're not, these guys are still getting better. Tatum still getting better. Jaylen Brown still getting better. You can say the same thing about Derek White. So I'm expecting Tatum to just take things to another level for sure. And maybe this is the year he's one of the last 2-3 finalists for MVP. Maybe. I don't know. I went out on a limb 2 years ago. I wish I didn't say that shit, Sherrod, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens this year, because I'm not saying it. I didn't want to say it last year, and I don't want to say it this year, even though I'm somewhat saying it, but I'm not going to be the guy who's like, oh, Tatum for MVP for sure. If he finishes top 3, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I'll put it that way.
It's summertime, and there's no better way to spend it than at the ballpark. Popcorn, soda, hot dogs. I'm starting to get hungry just thinking about it. Those games create lasting memories, and getting to those games is a lot easier with Game Time, which is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Now, being a Yankees fan that I am, living here in Boston, I know it gets complicated and very uncomfortable from time to time, but keeping an eye on the AL East is a really big deal for me, as you can imagine. I know I can go to the Game Time app and jump on the best deals quickly. The color coding options at the ballpark make it super easy to see what are the best deals for the best seats from all the seats in that particular venue. And you can customize your search options based on your favorite team or your favorite team to watch. The Game Time app makes it super easy to get into the game, and you can't beat Game Time's lowest price guaranteed. And when you're ready to lock up your tickets, Game Time has all-in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. Hate when that happens. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Well, I'll take that mantle from you, Josue. I'll say it because I've been saying Tatum is going to be in the MVP conversation from beginning to end. He is going to be a top 3 finish.
I think so.
Because he's got the talent. That's, to me, the talent is like the last thing I worry about with Tatum. It's consistency and playing with, I think, a little bit more aggression and just playing with a little more edge. And I think he's got all the motivation in the world for a player of his stature, of his talent and his skill set to be even more motivated than just the motivation to be a great player. So I absolutely expect, to me, I'm at the point now, if Tatum is not a top 3 finisher for MVP, I feel disappointed that he hasn't brought it this year, because he has that in him. And with the way things went down with Team USA, and now you're the highest paid player in the game, bruh, you have every reason in the world to make sure that your pronouns are he and him. That is you. That's you, man. You are that guy. You are that guy.
Yeah, but Sherrod, does he get hated on from a national scope? I think he gets hated on sometimes. Or I don't know. He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt.
I think he does, but I think part of it has to do with the fact, and you touched on this earlier, is just the engagement he has with officials. Because if you think about it, you know, between him and Luka, I'm not sure that's why the finals was, to me, one of the big takeaways I got from the finals was that Tatum and Luka, for the first time, I think, in any extended period of time, were not bitching and moaning to the refs every other time someone's breathed on them. They are two of the worst players in that regard. Incredibly talented and easily
Luka,
first.
But Luka's number 1 by a mile, I think. But I'm with you. Yeah, they're 1 and 2. They're 1 and 2.
Yeah. So to see them not do that as much, I thought was really good. But the thing about Tatum, and we don't talk about this with Jaylen Brown, because literally every year Jaylen Brown comes back and has a clear part of his game that's better than it was a year before. He's one of the few players I can say I would consider in that top 15 conversation who has done that every year of his career pretty much. With Tatum, you know, when you look at now he's into the offseason finally. Obviously, getting rest is going to be a big thing, and that's certainly something that he's had plenty of with Team USA. He's going to get some now before he gets things going again. But what part of his game do you think he needs to really try to strengthen up or bolster between now and the start of training camp?
Man, I mean, the free throw thing is like, I think he's aggressive enough. You know, he doesn't always get the call, but I think that's a part of it for sure. But overall, if I had to pick another thing about his game, honestly, Sherrod, that 3-point shot, man, is he losing it? Like, I don't know if it's in his head. I don't know if it's one of those situations where it's like, man, if I keep missing, he's going to bench me. So he was in his head with Team USA. But you kind of saw it start in the finals, right? I mean, he'll hit a few threes or so, but I just feel like his efficiency has gone down, you know, in a big way. So maybe that's it, you know, that and getting to the free throw line. I think like those two things is what's really preventing him from being an everyday 30-point scorer. Not that this team needs him to be, but I think that's the type of season Tatum could have where it comes naturally. You know, 28, 29 points a game, just from 12, 13 free throws a night, you know, 2-3 3-pointers, you know, off of 6-7 attempts or something like that, you know, something around there. I think would do it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you look back at their championship season, so many things fell into place just perfectly for them. You know, Sam Hauser off the bench was hitting shots when you needed him to hit some shots early on to give you the cushion. Peyton Pritchard seemed to get better and better as the season progressed. And he really came up big at some pretty critical moments for you late in the season to help you guys continue to be that team. Jaylen Brown was great. Al Horford in his, you know, load management role did a phenomenal job, I thought. Porzingis, you know, really, you know, they did a lot of load management with Porzingis, but for the most part, he was healthy enough to give you a sizable amount of contributions and give you that stretch big that you absolutely needed to really kind of balance out those minutes when Al Horford wasn't on the floor. And so you look at all the guys that did some pretty amazing things. Things just went perfectly. And I don't know if that's going to happen this year. I don't think things are going to be as easy for them, in part because guys just have off years. It's a part of the NBA. When you play in the league for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, there's going to be a season that's going to look like an outlier where you just weren't very good. And it could just be you dealing with injuries. It could be dealing with the increased attention that you're going to get. Now, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Derek White, because that's a guy that you better believe when he's on the floor, teams aren't going to be as comfortable just kind of letting him do what he do. And if they try to take away some of the things from him, who is that going to benefit? So I think the Celtics, to repeat as champions, they are going to need a much more efficient Jayson Tatum. And then to your point, you know, when we talked earlier this week to Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe, that was a point that he made, that Tatum really needs to get back in the lab and just really work to fine-tune that three-point shot. Because if you look at just the efficiency of that, it has taken a significant downturn. It wasn't just with Team USA, where I don't think he made a single three. But also in the playoffs, he really was and being kind and saying that he was up and down, he was probably more down than up. And you look at his numbers in the regular season, they weren't exactly the kind of numbers that you would expect from an excellent three-point shooter on a team where you damn near everyone on the floor could knock down threes. He's got to get better at that and be more consistent and efficient. And I think he will, because again, I think it's the only thing that you can really look at as his game right now. And you can say, this is something that might be a problem if we don't fix that and correct that now. Right.
Because sometimes I feel like you get flashbacks of like the old Tatum where the volume is just like through the roof and he's just trying to shoot himself into the game. And like, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, he's worked so hard to get out of his system. So maybe it's a volume thing, you know, maybe he's settling too often, but yeah, that percentage really surprised me that he wasn't able to bring that up. But again, like you said, you know, when you got your entire starting five that can shoot threes, you got Hauser coming off the bench that can knock down a bunch, that helps. But it would, just to see him, you know, find that efficiency this year, I think would be great, you know, especially if we're talking about entering that conversation and being one of the top 3 finalists for MVP.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to work on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, like Josue, I'm going to try to get a little bit of enjoyment of the last few days of the summer. I will not be doing outdoor.
Yeah, man. Get out there.
Outback Josue Pavon. I'm not doing that, but I'm going to try to get a little bit of sunshine. Folks, again,
people out there who haven't seen Tropic Thunder, man, watch that movie. That's a great movie.
Oh man, and now he's got movie reviews and options for you. The man can do anything and everything. Josue Pavon. Hey, Josue, thanks for checking in here. And this is the Big 3 NBA podcast. Again, thanks for checking us out, and we will see you when we see you. Peace.